Hello and welcome back to Spirit Mom. Today at Spirit School, we're going to discuss 5 ways to become a better, more conscious parent. Because how do we awaken the world more? By being more awakened parents. So let's dive right in. Number 1, be with them. Be with them. I'm going to be with them. I'm their parent. Are you with them? Or are you doing work while they sit there and you're making sure they don't get killed, but are you with them? When they talk to you, you go, yeah, that's nice. Okay, now here's your toy. Go play. Here's the tablet. Go play. Be with them. That's why kids will jump into being bad, because just like the rice test, where remember we've talked of the energy rice, how you have the good energy rice is good, the bad energy rice is gross, but the ignored energy rice is downright disgusting. So ignored children are not disgusting. They're smart and they're going to seek negative attention if they can't get positive. So this means you have to give them more attention than you're probably capable of being. You're probably not capable of doing every intricate thing they want you to do, especially young children. They are thirsty. It starts like babies are very thirsty for their moms from like 1 to 2, right? But around 18 months, it starts to blossom, but it really starts to show itself at 2, where they're getting more and more thirsty for actual attention, actual interactions, not just holding and loving, but like, look what I'm doing. Aren't I cool? They're desperate for you to tell them how cool they are. And then as they, from 2 to 6, they're super thirsty at these ages. And then onwards to 7 and 8. And then if you miss the boat on giving them the attention they required, around 6 and 7, and then by 7 it's off like a rocket, they're going to start getting that attention from their peers. And once they start realizing validation comes from their peers, you lose your foundation with them. They're now going to seek their friends' approval and not yours. They're going to keep secrets from you. They're going to stop trying to get your attention, and they're just going to care about their friends. And we all know how that goes. That leads down a dark path, especially if they find bad friends, which often they do if they were ignored. And this is coming from a place of assuming you're already like a good parent. We're not parent coaching here like abusive parents, because that's a whole different bag of bones. We're talking about parents that think they're good. But we are raised in this asleep place where our parents, even if they tried their hardest, were still unconsciously asleep. They were too busy thinking about work. They were too busy thinking about cleaning the house. They were too busy making sure you were good and didn't embarrass them in public. We are now in a more awakened place to really and truly fully understand that we have to be with our children, meaning soul to soul. We need to be with our children. We need to care about the things they care about and talk about the things they want to talk about and let them drain us dry. But that's why we use our own techniques like meditation and our own awakening to fuel us back up. And it's important to have boundaries and do take time for yourself, but we need to put a lot more time than we think into them, and genuine time. Don't fake it, they know. Okay? Number 2, time out means conditional love. Not unconditional, conditional. And this is another thing we're raised into, another thing we're taught to think is the right thing to do. But it turns out it's not the right thing to do. When we stick them in a timeout and don't let them show their feelings, if you cry, it's 10 minutes longer. We think this is what it is. We're not spanking anymore. That's all gone. People don't spank anymore. People don't like physically touch their children. What we do now is timeouts. Go to your room. These separating things that are dangerous for the mental state of the child, because we're teaching them that our relationship is dysfunctional because we're not being there with them during their pain. And I know what people think, and your instincts are going to be, yeah, but they should know better. Oh yeah, but I can't let them have tantrums. It'll make them grow up and be crazy. It actually doesn't. When we let them have their emotions, we let them be people. We are stopping that need to awaken later, because this is why we need to awaken, because we were put to sleep. You're not born asleep. When you're a child, you're free. And yes, you have behaviors that we can curtail to a point with gentle, loving guidance. And doesn't mean you need to be out in public while someone's screaming at you and you're embarrassed. Yes, it does. Will you sit there and go, I understand you're angry. Let's try to take our deep breaths and calm down. And so many of you are probably rolling your eyes because it's not fully there yet. We still are in a crossover phase with children where when we see parents that act like that, and I've been treated like this myself a lot, they think you're spoiling them. They think, oh, well, you're gonna have an animal one day. I guess maybe, because mine aren't adults yet, so we'll see. But the research is out, the data is out, the statistics, everything that we love to look into as a scientific society, which it sometimes feels like we are. When you put a kid into a timeout, you are separating them from their loving parent in their moment of need. You are telling them you don't care that they're upset and that they can go sit over there until they calm down. So until we're teaching them to stuff down those emotions and to go away until they want to come back and act proper. So does that sound like unconditional love? If you're telling them to go away until they start acting proper, it means that you don't love them unconditionally to their minds. I mean, you probably think you do. Your mom, your dad, you love them. Of course I love you. I love you. I just need you to go away because you're bothering me. That's what we think because we can see the bigger picture because we're the adults. And we know all about dysfunctional love for the most part. We know that we've talked about this before though, how we think we can treat family a certain way, but you can't. Part of being awakening, and it's part of the awakening process because I feel like you could be awake and still treat some people like this. Your children will be the closest to you that you're going to treat like this, and spouses. You don't get away with it. And yes, it's hard to deal with tantrums when someone's screaming at you. Yes, this is why these children, and some of them, they say they've chosen to incarnate into your life to help you with your awakening. Pull on that if it helps you get through that tantrum, because sending them into a timeout is sending them away. It's sending them away from your love. We have to sit there with them while they're screaming and yelling and understand that they're upset, and that's okay. And teaching them that will help them stay awake, and it will actually help us wake up, because it's not easy. It's not easy to have someone scream at you and for it to be okay. It's not. But you will level up in the process. This leads us into our third point. Expect a tantrum from a no. So when you say no, there will be a tantrum, and that has to be okay. The tantrum is not bad behavior. The tantrum is emotions. Now feel free to explain to them, I know this is sad, but it's okay, and all such things. But again, what we can't be doing is, no, don't be angry. You better stop crying, or blah, blah, blah. Oh, you better be quiet, or blah, 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 blah. What I always used to struggle with, because it was when one of the babies was sleeping. The baby's sleeping, shh. You know, like, fine, here, have it. But it's a dance, and it's a game to stay awake to their emotions, but at the same time, we're living in our different reality than them. They are kind of living in a different reality than us, but it doesn't mean we get to crush their reality. It doesn't mean we get to crush their little lives, because our life is more important than theirs. And yes, we love them, and they should just know we love them, and they should just deal with our rules because we love them. And we're not violent, we're not hateful. We're talking good parenting here. We're talking people that are trying their hardest and being good, but it's not like that fully awakened space. It's putting the children to sleep. The children need to be kept awake, and it'll make things easier and more progressive for all of our awakenings later on if the children are kept awake. And you see these starseed children in the odd parent. I see it especially with like homeschooling parents, which I tried to homeschool. I failed, so it's not easy. I have her in a special homeschool association now, but it's not easy to homeschool and to get them to listen and to be understanding and to keep that whole game going where I'm awake and you're awake. And it is difficult but doable and worthwhile, and more to the parenting game than you might have thought when you signed on, because when you love them and you think that's enough, because I love you so much, But there's a lot to it because we're dealing on different mental planes. We're in different realities, and that can be very hard. For us is the ones it should be hard for, though, not them, because they are growing, blossoming flowers that we are going to crush with our adultness, our I know better, because I said so. Yeah, we need to do better. Not that we're doing bad, but there's new ways coming out, blossoming in our awakening that we can blossom into as parents. Number 4, animals do not ignore their babies. And tribal people, ancient people, like the tribal people that still exist today, do not set down their babies. This is just an ancient way of parenting, a known way of parenting that Europe, Europe, when they started becoming all civilized, ruined. We're not supposed to sit down our babies. This sleep, I didn't make this up. The statistics and data is there. Look it up. It's 100% factual that you should not sit down your baby. Obviously for the odd moment, but attachment parenting is the proper mammal way to do it. And if you're producing a child, then you're going the mammal route, because I'm all for ascension and doing things in the higher realms. But if you're producing a child, that is going to require biology. That is going to require acting like a mammal, because you just made a baby, and that baby is living in its root chakra only. And that means just survival, just mammal mind, animalistic. So you need to treat that baby as such. There's no such thing as sleep training. That is false. Just because it works does not mean it's right. Spanking your children used to work. That doesn't mean it's right. And just because you're not hitting your child does not mean you're not hurting your child. And this is not your fault. Do you know, once upon a time, this is in my dad's generation, he's not that old, that him and his there was 5 of them, none of them were breastfed, not because there's anything wrong with my grandma's breast milk, but because the doctor said that was gross and bad, and that you would be hurting your baby, and that you should feed them formula. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like, the amount of women nowadays getting C-sections because it's easier for the doctor, it's a joke. Do you realize they get paid more and they can schedule it in? 1 in 3 births now are C-sections, and the numbers are going up by the day. The only women I know that naturally gave birth were me and my sister. That's it. Every other person I know has had C-sections, and not even because they had to, because they scheduled them. Some of them had to, but one makes you wonder how, yes, they're a great thing in an emergency situation. But anyways, I digress. The issue is animals don't set down their babies, so neither should you. Sleep training is cruel. It's all about attachment parenting. Don't set down that baby, and don't go back to work. I know that's triggering, and we're growing into we already live in a society that expects 2 people to work, and that's bonkers. But go ahead and take the selected poorness for the while and don't go back to work. I didn't. And I was constantly asked, when are you going back to work? When are you going back to work? I'm not. We'll take the pay cut. We'll live a smaller life. Now, if you're in this situation where you actually can't pay rent, that sucks, and don't feel bad about it. Go back to work, I guess. That's balls. But for everybody else, if you can afford to not get kicked out of your house and not go back to work, then don't go back to work. Your baby needs you. This isn't a joke. I'm not being anti-feminist here. This is factual. Your baby needs you. Until you can tell the baby, okay, sweetheart, mommy's going to work, and they can go, okay, mommy, that's when you can leave the kid. Okay? That's not I didn't make this up. This is facts for the mental health of the child. This is why we have a growing crisis of mental health in children, because their moms went to work and left them alone as a baby. Like, just wow. Like, we've made some strides in society, but that is one thing where we've just taken a nosedive. Okay, because women didn't want to get slapped around by their husbands and they wanted some kind of say in their life. Children had to lose their mothers? Why couldn't men just stop slapping their wives and let the women have a say in their life instead of forcing them to go get a job? Because basically society was saying, if you want to have an opinion in this world, you better be making the money, because that's all that mattered. That was a little bitter because I am slightly bitter on this subject. It's for real. It's a conspiracy that they make women go back to work. And you're lucky, especially in America, if you get a year of maternity leave. I've heard some jobs having 18 months and you're so lucky. Though usually you take a pay cut on the maternity leave if you're taking 18 months. You should be taking at least 2 years, but I would say 3 would be better because you need to be able to explain to the child. They can't just be going, and just because they eventually stop crying because they get used to it does not mean they're okay with it, okay? I'll stop. I could probably talk for years on this subject. Next, number 5, appreciate the good even when they aren't trying to impress you. As kids, love to impress you. They love good attention. We mentioned earlier that they'll take negative, but they love good. They're little hearts. They eat, they live off that positive attention. And they'll live off that positive attention all until probably their adulthood, like their whole childhood, if you're constantly giving it to them. They only shut down and stop seeking it if they stopped getting it. And that's around like 7 when that reason comes in and they're starting to realize, oh, you don't care. And then they'll seek the friends. But you have a good chunk window up until 6. Then 6 is the transitionary period. 7's where they really start to go. So positive attention. And this is where you can start to inch them towards good behavior without the timeouts and stuff, with the positive attention and not when they're seeking it. So you saw them put their shoes away. Make sure, oh, wow, thank you. Without, about time you put those away. Oh, thank God for once you did it. No, you just say, oh my God, thank you so much, Melissa. Oh, thank you, Tony. Oh, thank you. Mommy Daddy appreciates it. When you do this, it's amazing, right? We can give it, or a dinner if it went well, if they ate their food, if they didn't fight, if they didn't throw it around, if they made their bed, if they're just out shopping with you and not, can I have this, can I have that, can I have this, can I have that? Because that's a constant thing with mine. I don't know about yours. Can I have this, can I have that? Oh my God, you get one thing, one. You just, thank you for letting us actually just be together as a family. Actually, that had it's hard to find a way to not add in a little sting when you say it. You really need to really make it just pure honey without the backward slap of how sometimes they're usually bad when you go shopping, or they're usually bad when they don't, when you want them to clean their room, and whatever the situation may be. Nobody's trying to pretend that raising kids is easy, but that doesn't mean we look for shortcuts that society says is okay. Because society usually is wrong. If you look throughout history, it's usually wrong, right? Am I crazy? It's not known to be the wisest of things where you can learn what to do, because society likes things to look right. It wants politeness. No one wants your kids screaming in the store, but guess what? Sometimes things are hard. Sometimes things are uncomfortable. Sometimes things look ugly. Sometimes things sound terrible. Sometimes your nerves will be scraped to their edge. But that is part of life, and it's growing pains. It's part of our evolution. And raising kids, think about the ugly birth. Like if you actually gave like a vaginal birth, even the C-section is an ugly affair, but vaginal birth is an ugly, painful affair. It's the same thing when you're raising them. Like, not that it's a bad thing, because that birth brought you a teeny tiny adorable baby to love, but the growing pains of the child and going through that fighting with the child is going to give you an adult, a teenager, a preteen that you're still going to have a loving relationship with. It means that you don't need to prepare to lose them around puberty and then hope to get the odd call when they're an adult. It means you'll stay like in this loving mother, daughter, father, son, daughter, mother relationship with the children. You'll be one with them forever. And then when you're both adults, you can just be unanimous together people, or maybe you're the wise one, but you'll have equal respect. They'll come to you when they're a teenager. They'll tell you things. You'll be a part of their life. And if you don't believe me, my kids are still fairly young. My oldest is 6. So I'm just physically learning this myself now. I haven't had to lose one yet. So this is why I'm desperate to not lose them and to keep them deeply a part of my life. Because yeah, they love you when they're little. But if you don't love them enough in the way that they want you to love them, then once they become a preteen, they're gone. And it'll start around 7. The research is there. I'm on learning it, and I've seen the proof in the pudding. I've been there with my own life and saying c'est la vie to my parents emotionally because they weren't there. They didn't love me enough. That's what I thought. They think they loved me, and that's why I've forgiven them now as an adult, because they think they loved me. But one of my biggest things growing up is you don't love me. And trust me, every single kid that is getting ignored is thinking the same thing. Our goal should be those cliche homeschooling parents where they're all in love, like the Brady Bunch, except without the divorce. But even if you got a divorce, it's beautiful that they were still all in love and happy, happy, happy family. Because a happy family is the goal, a happy life is the goal, ascension is the goal for everybody in the family. And this is all applicable even if you don't have your own children yet, because you can still use these things with children you know, or preach the word to parents, because they all love getting parenting advice from people without kids, right? But if you want to look into it, everybody needs to know this more, because it's not the mainstream thing that's being taught. Okay? Good luck, people. Goodbye for now, Spirit Mom.